Remember the yield sign. Traffic has priority. You must wait for the black sedan.
Okay, I see it. Waiting for the gap.
Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are tackling an absolute beast of a challenge for expats and newcomers, the German practical driving system. If you're preparing for your test and you aren't fluent in German, well, the prospect of taking a highly technical driving exam in a foreign language probably sounds completely terrifying, right? But seriously, do not panic. Today, we're going to break down the ultimate cheat codes for passing the practical test, the praktische Prüfung, without needing to be fluent in German at all. We've gone through our sources and extracted all the vital language hacks, the sneakiest driving traps, and the essential rules, so you can walk into that test with total confidence. So you might be wondering, can you actually pass the German driving test without speaking German? The short answer is yes. But, okay, there is a catch. Examiners can and absolutely will abort a driving test if your German is so poor that it becomes an active safety issue on the road. I mean, they need to know you can understand basic commands. But here's the ultimate cheat code. The Federal Union of Driving Instructor Groups, known as the BVF, actually created a standardized vocabulary list specifically for non-German speakers to pass. It's basically a minimum required dictionary. Examiners use these exact predictable phrases, so you don't need fluency. You literally just need to memorize this highly specific script. All right, let's dive right into our 5-level survival guide. 1. The silent examiner. 2. The pre-flight technical check. 3. Surviving city traps. 4. Conquering the Autobahn. And 5. Color-coded sign language. Level 1. The silent examiner. Here is the golden rule of the German driving test, summed up perfectly right here. Wenn nichts gesagt wird, dann geht es geradeaus. Basically, if the examiner says nothing, you always drive straight ahead. This is absolutely crucial. There's no need for you to constantly ask for directions at every single intersection. If they're sitting in the backseat in total silence, do not panic. Just keep the car moving straight forward and honestly, just enjoy the quiet. Now, when the examiner does want you to turn or change course, they aren't going to strike up a complex conversation. They're going to use these exact, simple phrases from that BVF script. You really need to train your ears to recognize them instantly. For example, biegen Sie links oder rechts ab. Turn left or right. Die nächste Straße links oder rechts. Take the next street left or right. Richtung Autobahn is going to direct you toward the highway. And if you roll up to a roundabout or Kreisverkehr, listen closely for erste, zweite oder dritte Ausfahrt nehmen. Take the first, second, or third exit. Memorize these and you're going to navigate flawlessly. Okay, moving on to level 2, the pre-flight technical check. Look, your exam literally starts the second you walk up to the car. The examiner has to verify that you understand basic vehicle mechanics and safety protocols before you even start moving. They'll walk you through a specific sequence starting right at the ignition, moving under the hood, checking the lights, and finishing up at the tires. And remember, you don't actually have to pronounce these words perfectly. You just gotta react when you hear them. So listen closely for the command, machen Sie die Zündung an, which means turn on the ignition. They might say, öffnen Sie die Motorhaube to have you pop the hood, where you'll need to physically point out the motor oil, the engine oil, or the Kühlmittel, the coolant. Then comes the light check. You'll be asked to switch on specific lights to prove they work. Just memorize these 4. Abblendlicht for your low beams, Fernlicht for high beams, Warnblinkanlage for hazard lights, and Nebelschlusslichter for that ultra-bright rear fog light. Then comes the final part of the pre-flight check, the tires, or Reifen. And hey, if the examiner tells you to Reifen kontrollieren, don't just kick the tire and nod, okay? You have to explicitly show them you're looking for 3 specific things. Point to the sidewall to show you're checking for Beschädigung, or damage. Point to the grooves for Profiltiefe, the tread depth, and reference the Reifendruck, the tire pressure. Doing this methodically proves you know exactly what makes a vehicle safe. Let's tackle level 3, surviving city traps. Okay, this is a massive one. The single biggest trap in residential areas is the rechts vor links rule, right before left. Whenever you enter a 30-km/h zone, this priority rule is almost always in play. It means you absolutely must yield to any car coming from an unmarked street on your right. And here is a major pro tip. You can't just glance with your eyes. No way. You must physically turn your head and slow the car down at these intersections. You have to clearly, almost theatrically, show the examiner you're actively checking for cross-traffic. Which brings us to the absolutely non-negotiable Schulterblick, the shoulder check. This is basically a religion in Germany. You must check your blind spot every single time you turn, change lanes, or pull out of a parking space. If you forget, even once, the examiner will write down fehlende oder ungenügende Spiegelbeobachtung, meaning missing or insufficient mirror observation. And if they write that down, you instantly fail the test, so do not underestimate the Schulterblick. Now lock this number in your brain, 1.5. If you come across a cyclist, a Radfahrer, German law rigidly dictates that you have to leave exactly 1.5 meters of lateral space when overtaking them. If the street is just too narrow to guarantee that 1.5 meter gap, or if there's oncoming traffic, do not risk it. Seriously, losing a few seconds waiting behind a bike is way better than failing your exam. Stay patiently behind the bicycle until it is definitively safe to pass. Here is another trap that catches people off guard: the Einbahnstraße, or one-way street, which is indicated by a blue sign with a white arrow. If you're driving on an Einbahnstraße and that silent examiner suddenly speaks up to tell you to turn left, you have to position your car on the far left side of the street before making the turn. But watch out, because here's the trick. Many one-way streets in Germany legally allowed bicycles to travel in both directions. So even though cars are only going one way, you've got to constantly scan for two-way bicycle traffic before making your move. All right, level 4, conquering the Autobahn. So you're on the world-famous Autobahn. If there is no posted speed limit, you actually want to aim to drive around 120 kilometers per hour. This shows the examiner you're confident and not completely terrified of higher speeds. But as your speed increases, your following distance has to increase too. Here's a brilliant little hack to measure that distance perfectly without just guessing. Look for the white reflector guideposts, the Leitpfosten, on the side of the highway. They are placed exactly 50 meters apart, so use these physical markers to make sure you're keeping a safe distance from the car in front of you. But wait, it's not all high speeds. You're also going to face the exact opposite, the Gefahrbremsung, or the mandatory panic stop. The examiner will instruct you to accelerate to 30 kilometers per hour and then give a sudden command to stop. You have to slam on those brakes as hard as physically possible to show maximum deceleration. It should feel aggressive. You're literally proving you can stop in an emergency. And crucially, after you finish the brake, you must use your indicator and perform your Schulterblick blind spot check before you merge back into traffic. Finally, we unlock level 5, color-coded sign language. Let's break this down visually, because the contrast here is super helpful. Red circles universally mean something is strictly prohibited. For example, a red circle might indicate a speed limit you can't exceed, or an Überholverbot, meaning absolutely no passing. On the flip side, blue circles mean an action or a speed is mandatory. This could be a minimum speed limit you have to maintain, or a mandatory direction you must turn. So just remember, red is a restriction, blue is an obligation. Now, out of all the signs you'll see, this yellow diamond is literally your absolute best friend on test day. This is the Vorfahrtsstraße sign, meaning priority road. As long as you're traveling on a road marked with this yellow diamond, you automatically have the right of way at all upcoming intersections. You don't even have to worry about that stressful rechts vor links trap while this sign is active. And of course, we have the classic red octagon stop sign. It looks like stop signs all over the world, right? But the enforcement here in Germany is incredibly strict. A rolling stop is an instant fail. You must bring the vehicle to a total, complete stop right at the thick, solid white line painted on the road, which is known as the Haltlinie. Even if you can see for miles and the road is totally clear, the car's momentum must completely drop to zero before you proceed. So what's the big takeaway from this explainer? Your success really just comes down to a few very specific, controllable behaviors. Memorize that basic BVF vocabulary list so the technical checks and navigation commands don't catch you off guard. Physically exaggerate those shoulder checks so the examiner clearly sees your safety routines. And above all, treat that silent examiner rule as your ultimate guide. If they aren't speaking, you're doing fine, just keep driving straight. The German driving test is definitely demanding, but as we've seen, it's also entirely systematic and predictable. It's really just a code waiting to be cracked. Armed with these survival hacks and that vocabulary list, you are totally ready. But it does leave you wondering, once you crack this code, will mastering the famously strict German system actually make you a better, safer driver everywhere else in the world? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and safe driving out there.